This newly updated Hunter solo build scorches everything. You're going to be playing all types of PvE content, just running around throwing grenades, having infinite melee knives that will scorch, kill or ignite everything it touches, and on every melee kill, you'll spawn fire sprites which will give you restoration, you'll get health, a DPS increase by 20%, you'll spawn orbs of power which will give your void weapons volatile rounds and ability energy, you'll get faster supers, and overall this build is just going to dominate everything. And the best part about this build is that on every single melee kill, you'll go invisible too. So you're not only getting the DPS increase, health and restoration on every melee kill, but you're also going invisible, which just means you're literally playing in god mode. And I have to say, this is probably one of the most fun builds I've ever used on a Hunter, and it's extremely powerful. Now, do you want your characters to feel more powerful and look more beautiful? Then check out my new partner Apex Gaming PCs. I've got my own custom line of powerful PCs available that will guarantee you play flawlessly with maximum quality and performance. Whether you want a light build, a darkness build, or you want to go all out god mode, then Apex has got your back using some of the best and latest components available regardless of your budget. And on top of this, they also have finance options available so you don't have to pay all at once. You can also use my code DIVIDE for up to $250 off your next purchase. See my link and discount code below. You're welcome. Now, solo builds on the Hunter has had bad days in the past, but with the introduction to new fragments and artifact perks, as well as the changes to the whole mod system with Buildcrafting 2.0 introduced this season with Lightfall, we can really develop this build further and make it even more powerful than it's been in some previous seasons. And not only that, but because of the new buildcrafting system in place, we now have hundreds if not thousands of different ways that you can create unique, fun and more broken builds, which is why if you like this build then you might like some of my other builds, which you can find down in the playlist link below, because I can assure you, you might just find your new favourite build that will help you dominate endgame PvE in Destiny 2 Lightfall this season, so check it out later if you get a moment. But for this new Hunter build, we're going to be using a combination of different fragments and mods to allow this build to have a place in high level content like a Legend and Master Lost Sector or Nightfall. But is this something I'd take into a GM? Honestly, probably not, because there's just so many builds out there that are more optimised for Grandmaster Nightfalls, like the Hunter Invis build, so if you're looking for a build to help you complete GMs, then you might want to watch one of my other Hunter builds in that playlist. But the way this build works is you'll start by using your melee on an enemy to ideally kill them. This will make you invisible, give you a healing effect, make you radiant for more weapon DPS, while also spawning an orb of power and a fire sprite. Then picking up the orb and fire sprite will give you volatile rounds to void weapons, restoration, and 3 stacks of armor charge, as well as ability energy depending on the route you go with this build in terms of mods. And then we'll make use of those armor stacks on a mod that suits your playstyle, which we'll get to shortly. But from here you'll just run around mostly being invis all the time, just killing ads with your melee, throwing grenades and dodging if you miss or mess up with the melee and need to get it straight back. And then you just keep repeating the process. And doing this, you're going to spawn so many orbs for faster supers and get all of those effects on top by picking up the orbs every few seconds, which is just crazy. We have that many buffs that we can't even see half of them on the screen. Now, a melee kill will make you invisible for 7 seconds, whereas a finisher will give you 10 seconds, but if you're killing a more powerful enemy like a champion, you'll get around 15 seconds if not longer. I think the most I've ever had has been around 20 seconds, which is just stupid, because with this build, you can go invisible whenever you feel like it. Just perform a finisher on an ad that's nearby or kill one with your melee. Now that's all good, right? For easy content. But what about endgame PvE, where you're not going to kill ads with your melee, like this Lost Sector for example, when I'm around 15 under the recommended power? Well, you're just going to weaken enemies first, but kill the majority of them, like you would normally, and then leave those weak ads alive nearby to use to your advantage. You can freely use your first knife to scorch them if you want to, because remember that we have a dodge, right? So you can just get that melee straight back if we do mess up with it or lose it. But on top of this, we'll also have our grenade ability with a combination of different artifact perks this season to make them worth using with this build, which I'll get to in just a minute as well. But with this build, we're going to use the knife trick melee ability, which will throw a fan of flaming knives that scorch enemies on hit, and after enough scorch stacks, that target will ignite. But we ideally want to use that melee to get final blows so that we can go invisible. And the way we'll go invisible is by using the exotic Assassin's Cowl, because what this does is make you invisible on powered melee final blows and restore a portion of health and shields, with finishers on more powerful targets giving a much better benefit. So this combined with our fire sprites and orbs is going to make this even better. Now, on the unlikely chance we screw up with our melee and lose it, we'll use the Gambler's Dodge class ability so that we can get another one by dodging near an enemy. And this only has a 38-second cooldown, which is actually quicker than that when we're using a bunch of things to improve the cooldown on them. But we're going to use the knock 'em down aspect, which will buff our super, but more importantly, while radiant, final blows with our throwing knife fully refund us that knife, which is how we are able to keep it over and over on a loop and just become invisible every time when we get a kill. But we'll become radiant by using Ember of Torches, the fragment, so that hitting an enemy with a powered melee will make us and nearby allies radiant, which gives us not only a DPS increase, but anti-barrier rounds on top too. So we don't even have to run specific weapons to stun barriers with this build. The second aspect I'm running is On Your Mark. I'm only using it for the 3 fragments. I didn't see a point in running the other aspect, Gunpowder Gamble, because we have other plans with those grenades. So that grenade we're using is the Firebolt one. Now I know they're not great, but this will scorch enemies and cause them to ignite over time, and I'm only using this for this season due to having some new artifact perks. Firstly, the Solar Surge, which will give us armor charge when we collect a fire sprite, the Flare Up so that the Firebolt grenades apply more scorch stacks and spawn a fire sprite near enemies after hitting them, and then the Rain of Firebolts so that we can have 2 grenade charges. So it really just flows well with this build style that we have in place, because we want as many fire sprites as possible, because using the next fragment, Ember of Mercy, we'll get restoration when we pick up a fire sprite. I think this is one of the new fragments from this season as well, but the other 3 fragments we have are Ember of Char, so that Solar Ignition spreads Scorch, Ember of Sarin so that defeating Scorch targets creates a fire sprite, usually caused by our melee most of the time, and that fire sprite will give us grenade energy. And then Ember of Resolve, this is another new fragment this season, so that Solar Grenade Final Blows can cure us. I was close to having the Ember of Singeing fragment instead, so that we get our dodge back quicker, but honestly I never really had any issues with not having a dodge ready when I needed it, so I didn't think it was needed. But if you're having problems getting your dodge back quickly, or you don't have 100 mobility, then I'd recommend using this fragment, as it will help you out a lot. Now if you're using this build in a season other than season 20 right now, between March and May, then I would swap the Firebolt grenade with either a fusion grenade or a healing grenade, just because the build ain't worth running a Firebolt grenade if you don't have those artifact perks to benefit from. Also, I see a lot of people running similar builds but instead using the Trip Mine grenades along with the young Aramkara Spine to enhance them. This ain't bad, it's actually a really good build, but I'm just not a fan of those grenades. And this build today is focused on our melee as a melee scorching build. But that setup isn't bad either, so I just thought I'd point that out if you're wondering why I'm not using that build instead. But moving on, in the artifact we're using Volatile Flow to grant us volatile rounds to our void weapons when we pick up an orb, because this is just too good not to use with most builds. So make sure you're running a void weapon to make use of that perk, but it's not required for the build, so you don't have to use them if you don't want to. But the way we'll generate that orb is by using a Void Cypher mod in the helmet and getting rapid kills with our void weapon to get that orb to spawn. Or we can also create it by using our melee to get a kill with the heavy handed mod in the arms, which we'll be doing all the time anyway. And then in the leg armor we have a few mods we're using so that picking up those orbs will give us ability energy to our grenade, which just means more uptime for that grenade and getting it back quicker, because we'll have infinite melees anyway, so we can put all our focus towards grenades, which is the same for the class armor. I just have a distribution and 2 bomber mods. And then using the armor charge system and armor charge stacks we get, we'll get more grenade energy by just using our grenade because of the 2 grenade kickstart mods in the arms as well. But the last 2 things to top of our mods are the 2 hands-on in the helmet so that we can get extra super energy on melee kills. This is the mod screen here if you want to directly copy it, but there will be a dim link below too. But for the artifact, you'll want to copy this one as it doesn't get included with dim links and also doesn't save with in-game loadouts, so you will have to change it every time you change your subclass builds. The only last thing I'd recommend with this build is to make sure you have 100 mobility to get your dodge back quicker and 100 resilience to make the most out of the damage resistance in harder content, along with some damage resist mods in the chest armor. And as long as you have all this, you shouldn't have any issues, because this build really does an amazing job this season and it's something I strongly recommend you try out. But if this ain't the build you're looking for, then stay tuned and check out the new playlist down below, because I do cover builds every week on this channel and you might just find your new best build. But for now, give this one a try and I'll see you guys very soon for some more crazy builds for Season of Defiance. Peace out guys.